Hey, and happy Halloween, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back with here in the Weather Nerds YouTube channel, getting you guys ready for the weekend. This is the Weather Report, your no-nonsense weather guy here who likes to play it straight and keep you weather informed. Our motto is real simple: to keep you prepared and not scared. And if you come to this broadcast after the live update, if you would please consider, it'd be an honor and pleasure to be one of your weather sources. Please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future updates just like these. All right, well, we're going to take a look at things across the country here for today. We're going to talk about where we're expecting some big snows. Yeah, I think it qualifies big snows, at least based off the totals. I'll show you where we're going to see that going into this weekend, going in for today. We're going to talk about some chilly weather, at least briefly, across parts of the country. West Coast looks like they're going to see a lot of heavy rains out there as well. And then looks like a bit of a dry spell. And again, in the middle of the country, God, you guys have been a broken record on the warm spell in the middle of the country. We're going to talk about that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about yesterday, our highs and lows. Highs was Palo Alto, California, hit 98 degrees yesterday out there in the desert. And Peter Sinks, once again, Utah, once again, down to 4 degrees. Back-to-back mornings down to 4 degrees there. But interesting, this is the satellite that shows the lightning data. And one thing you notice across the country, there's not a thunderstorm to be seen. Yeah, it's actually clear out there. Something we have not seen a lot of here recently, but things are definitely settling down. Pretty cool here across the country. Let's go look at that weather map here for this morning. It's going to be this part of the country right up here with this low pressure up here. That's going to bring in the snows. We're going to talk about the snow totals here across portions of upstate New York and into Vermont. Some pretty decent totals there. Got another reinforcing upper level disturbances driving down the south. It might bring us some stray clouds and some showers here across the deep south. Got a weak system out here in the Intermountain region. Of course, it is wet and stormy out on the west coast. That's going to stay in place here over the next week or so. And the middle of the country, but I saw a report yesterday that Denver looks like they're on track right now to have the latest snow recorded there in that city's history, the way things are projecting right now. So interesting little tidbit there. Let's look at your watches and warnings here. We've got so very windy up here across the Northeast. We've got some freeze advisories up here and here. We also got numerous frost advisories. For some reason, this Pivotal Weather does not post the frost advisories. Not sure why, but we do have some frost advisories there across the Southeast. You'll see that in another product here in a second. I'll show you that. So let's talk about the Northeast. We've got that heavy rain coming up there. That's coming in through New York State and up through Vermont right now, up to Burlington. And we're going to transition this stuff over to snow here pretty soon. And we're talking about some pretty significant snows here. Wait till I show you the totals here on the model data here. Quite significant. Definitely going to be a skier's delight for some of the mountain areas up in that area going through this weekend. Now, quickly going to talk to the tropics real quick, as this is Melissa getting on out of here. Went by Bermuda yesterday, so it is almost history as it's racing across the North Atlantic. 41 miles per hour now, so it's moving on. It's trucking and getting on out of here, so we don't have to worry about this one anymore. In fact, as we look at the eSun's ensemble model here, I do not see anything coming on its heels. So we're getting ready to start of November. November is our last month of the hurricane season. Not to say we can't get any, but right now, at least going out 10 days, it does not appear to be showing anything. So again, show you this chart once again as we're getting ready to come into the first. Right there, we still got a little bit of activity potential here going through the month of November. But again, I think hopefully we're about done with seeing any big storms like we just had with Melissa, and the folks in Jamaica can get cleaned up there. All right, one thing we're not going to see a lot of going through this weekend, by the way, is going to be a lot of thunderstorm activity. We do have this on your day 2 outlook. This is the day 2 outlook here going for Saturday. So we're talking about areas down here along the Gulf Coast potentially could see a few thunderstorms down that way, but really not all that bad. So again, we're talking about here, Louisiana, Texas Gulf Coast, and this will shift as you look at your day 3 going into Sunday down to Florida. So South Florida could see a few thunderstorms down there, but that's about it. The rest of the country looking pretty good. Again, talking about those frost advisories I was just talking about, you see them here through the Carolinas, here Alabama, Georgia, also got portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas also in this as well. So we do have some additional frost advisories, folks getting their first frost of the season here across portions of the southeast. All right, so let's talk about the model data. Let's go get into this. We're going to look at the 3 kilometer NAM. That's our intermediate model here. And we're going to talk about what we're going to see here for the weekend. All right, so first, I'm going to let this thing loop all through here. We're going to stop here. The first thing we're going to talk about here is the Northeast. Northeast is going to see the rains here this morning, obviously, going on through. But as we go on through, the cold air is going to wrap in behind it. Look at that. There goes that blue. And we're going to get some good snows here across New York and up through Vermont with that. We're also going to be tracking this upper level low here that's going to be diving down to the south. Initially, I thought we might get a bigger system out of that a couple days ago, but it's going to dump down to the south. It's a little cold shot coming on down here. I'll tell you, if this was wintertime, so probably be dumping a little bit of snow behind this, but it's still sitting at the end of October, early November. So this will bring some showers across portions of the deep south. Arkansas, you've seen the showers across Oklahoma going into your Saturday. Tracking across the southeast, Tennessee might get some rains out of this, and into portions of Kentucky. But this thing really kind of weakens quite a bit here. Maybe shower there going into Alabama and North Georgia going into Sunday, maybe. But it really kind of loses its punch as we go through there. Also, the last thing we want to talk about, obviously, is our friends up there in the Pacific Northwest. Let me back this up a little bit here going into Friday. Again, we're going to be looking at some pretty decent rains up here. And in fact, a pretty good atmospheric flow for the days ahead here. So they're going to be seeing some pretty good rains up across Seattle, Olympia, getting down to Portland and Salem, getting into that area there with some pretty good surge of moisture coming on through there. So a little wet there. So it's really kind of depending on where you're at, where you're going to see the rainfall. So you go ahead and take a look at this, and I'll turn my clock back on. I don't know why that thing resets when I click on it, but it does. But you see the Northeast, the Northwest, and everybody else, not much of anything. And this goes for going through the next 24 hours. You take us all the way out, my bad. So other than that little disturbance, that little upper level low might bring a little bit of rain here across the mid-south. But really, it's the Northeast and Northwest. Those are the only games in town, really, for this weekend. So really not looking too bad there. Let's look at the snowfall. Let's talk about snowfall totals, okay? So here we go. Again, we're talking about some pretty decent snows. They really can't complain about this for the folks who like the skiing. So how much are we talking about? I mean, how about 13 inches? Look at that, 13 inches. This is upstate New York, 10 inches, 10 inches. Here in Vermont, seeing, boy, they're lighting up green here, 24 up to 2 feet up here in the extreme northern portions of Vermont. But boy, it is definitely looking some snow. Got snow here in 2 portions of New Hampshire, a little bit of Maine too, around on the Canadian border. So again, some very, very decent snowfalls here. You talking about 6 inches plus. Yeah, I think that falls into the category of some decent snows here, especially when you're talking about Vermont looking at some potential feet of snow here going into this upcoming weekend. So skiers delight if folks want to get an early jump on the ski season there in that part of the country. All right, let's talk about the temperatures here as we go look at this. Again, we're starting off a bit on the frosty side this morning. A lot of below 32-degree temperatures out here in the country. But the big game in town is going to be the fact that we're going to see, again, mild temperatures there in the middle of the country. This afternoon's highs, 60s, 70s. This is seasonably cool. I mean, we got 30s and 40s up here across the high plains, but we're going to see 70s in here by the weekend, guys. 70s. Can you believe that? Going into Sunday, it's going to be really, really cool. I don't know if you if you want to stay away from winter weather, but anyway, you've got a kind of cold night going in here into your Saturday morning. So a lot of 30s and 20s out here across the area. Got 30s even getting down to the south here, but not the widespread 32-degree temperature. So we got 30s into the south. We got all those frost advisories you have. And then daytime highs here. Oh, there he goes. Here comes the 60s showing up here. Wait till I show you the Sundays. It's going to be warmer than that out here. Got 40s here across the Great Lakes, northeast, south, not looking too bad there. And the daytime highs here going into your Sunday morning here. Again, see the blues there. Look at that cold air in the northeast. That's definitely why we're going to see snows. I see 20s and 30s up here. That's why we're going to see the snows wrapping around there. It's 20s and 30s around the Great Lakes, middle of the country. A little cool there. Then we're going to watch what goes on here for the week ahead. We're looking at the 500 millibar height anomaly here as we track the highs and lows coming across the country. All right, so one thing we're going to notice here is kind of a progressive pattern starting to evolve. It's definitely a west-east, so we're getting the storm systems coming out the Pacific. We're not going to really tap any real significant cold air just yet. So this is that upper level disturbance kind of sliding here to the southeast here. But when this thing moves on out, we're going to see high pressure build in from the west. So that's going to warm things up significantly here as we go into Sunday, the middle of the country, those high plains. I'll show you those temperatures. You see what I'm talking about there. This kicks on out, and then we get a nice high pressure ridge here across the Gulf Coast. So look at the jet stream flow here going way up here. So we're going to see above normal temperatures come in for a lot of the country going into early next week. Now, our next storm system looks like a little piece of energy kind of kicks off here going in toward Thursday. We see Thursday. Here's our little piece of energy here. We got another quick system moving it across the northeast going into Wednesday, Thursday. And this will kick into the southeast. This will drag a cold front across, may bring a little bit of rain going into next weekend, and then this a little cold shot going into next weekend. So looks like we get a warm up for most of this week, and then maybe going into next week, we get another cold shot come down here going in toward the following week. So that's about 10 days out. No need to go any further than that on that. All right, so let's talk about our forecast here. Again, we're going to talk about the week ahead. Not going to see any really big major storm systems, except for out on the Pacific Northwest. They're going to continue to see some wet weather out there. That's going to continue. Here's that drop down here with that upper level disturbance we're riding for the weekend right through the middle of the country, or right to the southeast, I should say, right through there. All right, that's going to move on out, kick up a little low, and it's going to stay offshore. I think good. If that was close, that could be a decent nor'easter, but that's going to stay offshore. It may drag some rains across portions of the northeast going toward Tuesday. And then look at Wednesday. I mean, we've got a new system coming in on the west coast, but most of the country pretty quiet. We got that high pressure ridge across the southeast, looking very good indeed. Here comes that little clipper system coming down out of Canada, going into the northeast, going into Thursday. So we'll get a nice little cold shot going across the northeast there, going on November the 6th. So looks like a little bit of snow is there. We've seen the freezing line down here. So this is pretty cold air coming down into the northeast. Another storm system out on the west coast. The Pareto systems continue out there. But other than that, that's about it. And then we got that little disturbance rolling out of the Rockies. There it is right there, kind of setting up the showers there across the middle of the country there as we go toward next Friday. All right, so let's talk about the temperatures. I promised you this. Here's the rainfall totals for the next 10 days. Again, it's the northeast seeing most of the significant rains and snows. The Pacific Northwest, wow, they're definitely going to see a lot of heavy rains out here. I mean, we're talking some very 10 inches, 7 inches. So we're talking about some pretty heavy rains here along the west coast with a couple of systems moving through there. And you got that weak system that may drop some rains there across the middle of the country. But really, it's the northeast and the northwest that are going to see the predominant amount of rain here as we go through the next 7 to 10 days. Now, as far as the temperatures are concerned, this is for your Sunday. Check this out. This is unreal. These are 70s into the Dakotas in November. That's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be in the 50s. 50s and 40s going into this time of year, going into November. So they're in the 70s, even 60s up here, getting up to the Canadian border. 70s in Denver. I mean, just unreal. Very warm here on your Sunday. Let's go and track this forward here. We'll go through the week ahead here as we see our morning lows. Again, not overly cold across the country. Not seeing a lot of blue on that map. And then your daytime highs here on your Monday still will cool it off. A brief warmed up, but still getting closer to normal there, but 60s here in the middle of the country, 80s across Texas. Again, not seeing any real big outbreaks of any cold air coming down here anytime soon. Here's your 4 o'clock temperatures back in the 70s again across Nebraska. I mean, again, and we've been talking about this all, those who've been watching the reports, this has been nothing new. It's been like a broken record here across basically the plain states, seeing this continued above normal temperature trend here. All right, going into your Wednesday, let's check out Wednesday here. It's going to Wednesday afternoon. Looking at a rebound of the temperatures across the southeast after below normal temperatures all last week. Definitely looking a lot warmer down there. Seasonably cool across the northeast, 40s and 50s, high plains above normal. Again, no real cold air mass in here. And then we'll go into Thursday afternoon. Look at that, 60s, 70s once again, back in the Dakotas. Once again, in the middle of the country. Colder in the northeast. We got that cold blast coming in on Thursday, so we got temperatures dropping back into the 30s here for highs in the afternoon across the northeast. So it's going to get colder up there with that little clipper system. Look at the blue showing up there, so much colder there. And then finally going into your Friday. Let's see, again, we got a frontal system here. Got that system pulling out of the Rockies, so we got a cold front coming in here going into next weekend. And then Friday afternoon's temperatures here warming up out ahead of that front, out ahead of that into the 60s across Indiana and Illinois there going in for the week. So again, a fairly quiet week other than the northeast dealing with the snowstorm they're going to have this weekend. They got a little clipper system coming in there. Parade of storms out on the west coast, and then most of the country is definitely looking a bit on the dry side here for the week ahead. I got a funny feeling the climate outlook is going to kind of reflect that. What do you think? I think it will. Let me get that up for you real quick because I forgot to reset it. So let me do that real quick. I like to start in the normal progression of things. So here we go. All right, so let's talk about the temperatures first. Obviously, above normal temperatures, we've been talking about that, especially here in the middle of the country. Just unbelievable warmth here That's going to continue all week. This is again going for the week ahead, going into next week. So we're talking about the 5th through the 9th. And then look at everybody, the whole country, above normal. Now, one thing I will say, let me make this point. We got above normal temperatures right now. Last week of November, of course, is Thanksgiving, okay? I personally don't like a warm Thanksgiving. Odds are the pattern will probably change. We're kind of in this warm pattern now, start November, by the end of the month. So for those of you who like colder Thanksgivings, as I do, I prefer it to be a little bit cooler out there for Thanksgiving. I think we'll see a pattern change by the end of the week. And that's not a forecast. It's just me going on climatology, knowing how long a weather pattern typically holds, going on tradition, that we should see some sort of colder weather coming into the country by the time we get toward Thanksgiving. All right, again, not a forecast, just my opinion on that. All right, now this is the big story here, but obviously going to stay very much on the dry side here in these drought conditions across the country, which have been expanding. Looks like that's going to continue. The Northwest is going to continue with their deluge. That's going to continue next week. And then as we go further out, 8th to the 14th, again, very dry across the middle of the country here. We're just not tapping got no storm systems. The jet stream's not configured in a way to tap any Gulf of Mexico moisture, Gulf of America moisture. And again, just going to continue to stay wet in the Northwest and a little unsettled in the Northeast and maybe down toward Florida. But that's about it here for the upcoming week. So anyway, that is y'all's update here for the weekend. Hope everybody has a happy Halloween for today. And appreciate you guys checking us out here on the broadcast. Of course, we got our normal folks out there. Good morning, Ryan, Edith, Julie. Good to see you out there this morning. Appreciate you guys checking out the broadcast. And you guys have a great and safe weekend. Be good to yourselves out there. And we'll see you back in here on Monday for the next week ahead. And we'll see if we get any big changes. Like I said, next big storm system in the middle of the country or southeast really doesn't arrive until next Friday, Saturday, the way it's looking right now. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe. We'll see you next time.